Welcome to Workouts in the Basement, Volume 3. Today we're going to cover the squat, all the aspects of the squat, the different equipment, including bands and chains and the different types of bars, box squats. We're going to cover a little bit of everything today. First thing you want to remember, of course, is that you have a good solid cage to squat in. Make sure it's bolted down, because if the cage is loose and you fall, it's going to tip over. So that's very important. Make sure that your safety bars are in a position where you can squat to parallel or a little bit below. But if you do get stuck, you can go down just a little bit deeper, touch and get out from underneath the bar. The other thing that's very important is that we use collars. You can either use spin lock collars. There's a variety of them available. I use these because they're easy. A lot of people don't think they have to use collars, and most of the accidents that we see happen in gyms, and especially even in powerlifting meets, people will be warming up and they'll tip a little bit and the weights will start sliding and they flop, 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 and they go off the other side, and you basically have a bar either hitting somebody or else you're going to get hurt yourself, but you might injure other people. I've watched people squat without using a cage and fall over backwards and have the bar roll on the guy's foot. So I saw a few broken feet that way. I've seen some injuries, head injuries of people falling on the bar. The squat's a very safe exercise if it's done correctly. I actually see a lot more injuries from bench pressing than I do from squatting, so it's a good safe exercise. The basics of squatting are that you squat to parallel or below. In a contest you have to break parallel, which means your hip has to be lower than the top of your knee, and you have a judge sitting on each side, and that's what he looks for. And if you don't get deep enough, it doesn't count. The other reason it's really important is just for your own physical development, is the deeper you go, the more you involve your glutes, your hamstrings, a little bit more stretching. You get a little bit more power out of it, so the strength is usable instead of just being show strength. The little dips that most people do are basically working the strongest area of the lift, so you get very little benefit from it. So you want to make sure that you're doing it properly and that you're doing it with the right form. And we'll show form here in a little bit. The other thing you want to make sure is that you're keeping everything in order. You know what your workouts are going to be. We go heavy all the time. We switch exercises a lot, but we don't go light. And we do what I call, some people would call circuit training. I call it little rest training. I set up 3 exercises at a time, and I'll go from exercise to exercise to exercise, so I can keep working out faster and still rest that part of the exercise that I'm doing first, second, and third. So I'm not burning out. I don't have to stand around for 4 or 5 minutes between each lift, which is what happens with a lot of people. Is they spend 2 hours in the gym and they spend about 45 minutes of that actually lifting. The rest is done standing around. So with that said, form on the deadlift. You want to get it on your muscles, the traps, muscles in the back. You want to set in your neck. That's a high squat, and there's attachments you use for that, but it's hard on the neck to do that. So you want to kind of set it across your trap muscles. And again, you get a warm-up set, maybe 3 or 4, maybe even 5. We tend to keep our reps fairly low. We're usually in the 1 to 3 or 4 range for the power trainers, and I get as high as 10 probably for the bodybuilders and the people who are looking for more overall development. For strength, though, we keep it in the 1 to 3 range. Once in a while, we'll do a 5. You want to keep your back straight, which means it can be bent over and be straight. You don't want to round it. When you round it, it makes you fall forward. So you want to sit back like you're sitting in a chair. You want to sit with your heels down. Your legs, whichever distance you go, close is a little harder because we have a tendency when we're close squatting to bend our knees in. And so I point my toes out a little bit. I take a little wider than shoulder width stance. And when I squat, I want my knees to follow where my toes are at. So they're going out there, so I get some power through my whole body instead of coming in with my legs bowing in, or if I'm out beyond what my feet are, my foot's going to tip to the side. That's going to be very hard to complete the lift. So we'll do a set of 3 or 4 here with the bar. This is a fairly wide cage, so I use the rings on the bar for the distance, so I'm coming in even each time I come under the bar. So I use my hand on the outside of it. You want to make sure that you have room in your cage, that you're not going to pinch your fingers coming in, and that happens a lot more often than people think. And if you've got a lot of weight, there's going to be a major injury. So what we're going to do is get it set up here. We're going to come in, take it out, step, step, set up. I shouldn't have to take all kinds of steps walking back and forth. When you come out of the rack, it should be one step, and then if you need to even out a little bit. I keep my head up looking towards the ceiling, actually driving my neck into the back of the bar. So I keep my head up, and as I squat, I sit back, nice and deep, power up. I power up by driving my heels, so as I come out of the bottom here, I'm going to push with my heels, drive my hips forward, throw my shoulders back. And you can see that you get a lot of power that way, and a lot of stability. I want to move the bar as fast as I can, under control. If I try to go too fast, I might dip forward like that, which makes it harder to do. So when I come up, I want to explode up, but I don't want to step or fall with it. So that's the basic first part of a squat. As we add weight to the squat, which we'll do on the next set, you can use a belt. There's different types of belt. This is a power belt. Once you buy a belt, unless you gain or lose weight, the belt will last almost a lifetime. I've never had one wear out yet. I've been doing it for 20 years. So you want to get a 4-inch thick one, nice 1/4-inch thick width one, and of course you got your nice wide belt itself. Good strong buckle. Don't buy the cheap ones that are thin or they're made out of a real cheap leather. You'll be able to feel the quality. You can look at the stitching. This has 6 stitches across. If you get cheap belts, they will tear. And when you're in the middle of a lift, and when that buckle tears through the loop, it puts a lot more pressure on your body, throws you off balance. So we're going to get set up with some more weight here, and then we'll go to our next one using a belt. All right, we're ready for our next set. We've added another 45 on each side, so we've got 225 on the bar. Usually we would go even higher than this, but we kind of progressively work up. I only do a couple of warm-ups and I go right to my workload, which whatever it is, and I stay at that for 4 to 5 sets. Usually I keep a very low rep. Again, before you get under a bar with any amount of weight, you want to make sure that you have the same amount of plates on each side, that you have your collar on there. If you don't have that, there's a good chance you're going to get injured or the weight's going to fall off. Most injuries come from misloads, having the wrong amount of weights, different weights on each side, or forgetting to put a plate on and having one side a lot heavier. So we do that first, and when I tighten my belt, I do it using the cage. In a contest, I'll have a partner or somebody help me, but I just wrap it around here, and I want it nice and tight for this. So I pull as tight as I can get it, find a nice tight hole, slap it in, and I'm ready to go. So again, our form's the same. We're coming underneath here, get it nice on the back, right across the traps. Get it up, step, step, head up, squat down, drive up. One more time, squat down, drive up. Now, when we do this one more time, we're going to cover breathing. And when you breathe on this, you want to inhale at the top, go down, exhale on the way up. Now, there's another way of doing this, of breathing that's kind of new, and it's called breathing through your teeth. And that's actually, you inhale as you go down. On the way up, you kind of push your tongue against your teeth and make a hissing sound. And as you do that, you're putting pressure. Everything's tightening up in your body. It tends to give you a lot more power coming up. And you also don't blow all the air out, which a lot of times when you're squatting, they'll tell you when you hit your sticking point or it gets tough to blow all your air out. And if you do that, you're still stuck. The lift is over. But doing it with the hissing sound, I can hold it for a lot longer and still have air left in me, still keep that power. So we'll show one doing that. So again, get back in. I'm checking my weights. I have a collar on each side and I'm sitting on weights on each side. Got my bar pretty even in the cage. Again, I'm going to get under, set it where I like it. I'm going to come up, step, step, head up, big air, and back up. So, that covers the basis of the squat. You can see as I go down that I try to break parallel. I go fairly low with the weights. So I make sure that I'm getting all these muscles worked. You can use a belt whenever you need it. I tend to try to stay away from it until I get to a certain amount of weight. If I've done a lot of work, since I train a lot of clients, and I do a lot of demonstrations and I work out with them a lot, sometimes I'll get to the next day and I just don't have a lot of energy, so I'll put a belt on just for safety reasons. You don't want to put a belt on too early because it does too much of the assisting of the lift, and you don't want to wait till you've hurt your back to put one on. So you kind of have to gauge where you're at strength-wise. If you have a trainer, they should be able to tell you when you need a belt and when you don't. A lot of trainers might err to the side of having one on too often. It's better to use one too often than to get hurt not having one on. So now we're going to move to the next lift. We're going to move to a box squat. All right, now we're going to do the box squat. It's done off of different heights. I use boards. A lot of people will use a cushion. They'll actually make a box out of something. I actually use wood when I do it, so we can actually straddle it, take the complete walk out, keeping the same distance. You can see I have different size pieces of wood. This is my base, because I have nobody I've ever trained can sit on this and not break parallel. Almost everybody does. This will be the next one I put on for people that are a little bit taller. This one for me, these two get me right about parallel, just a little bit below. I could also add, I have some of these thin ones and a little bit thicker ones, and we can add those as we go. Now I can also use these to squat high if I need to. So I would handle a weight I've never handled before. Instead of going down to parallel, I'll probably just go down, put all the boards on there, do a partial squat. Each time I squat, I'll take a board out until I can get all that weight all the way down and then start over again. So box squats offer a lot of variety that you can't do with just the bar because you're going to end up getting crushed at the bottom. So I'm going to set this up real quick using the boards that I would use for a parallel squat. So first let's set this one in. And I set it all the way up against my cage. Try to keep it centered. And then I'll take my other one. And you can see on this one that we actually have some sandpaper on there. We did that to keep it from sliding if we walk out and bump it with our legs, that the box don't slide. It works fairly well, but once in a while it'll still slide a little bit. So I have my board set. Now I'm going to put my belt back on. And I'll show two different ways of box squatting. First one is just a touch and go, where you just touch. When you feel your rear end touch the board, you go back up. And then number two will be just a sit and then they explode up. They're different for two reasons. When you touch and go, it's much like a regular squat, except that you now know where bottom is. So for people that have trouble finding out where parallel is, if they're always squatting high, the box squats will get you down. You sit on it, have someone tell you when they see that your hips are lower than your knee, that's the range you want to be at to squat parallel. So when you touch and go, it's a fairly easy squat. You just have to make sure that you don't feel at the bottom. And I'll demonstrate that too. When you do an actual sitting squat, you stop and you don't relax totally, you just relax. You just stop a little bit, your body will automatically just relax just a little bit. And when you start up, it's a lot more explosive, a lot more hips get involved. It's a lot more tough to do that kind of a squat. We'll show that. What you don't want to do on a box squat, especially the one where you sit, is you don't want to move your feet forward. Because if you sit, once you move your feet, you're stuck. You're not going to get up without help. You can still use your safety bars to use to get out if you need to. Just lean forward, set it down if you have these set at the right height. And you want to make sure you're exploding straight up, not diving forward. So we're going to demonstrate first a touch and go one. So again, I get in here, straddling my box here, get my bar ready, sit where I like it, take it out, step back, head up, come down, touch, try back up, walk it back in. So that's version number one, and now we'll go to actually sitting on it. So again, I get back in, get the bar where I like it, back, come nice set up, head up, come down, sit, stop, boom, power up. So you can see how much more difficult it was for me to launch on that bottom when you actually sit and relax. takes practice, and I try to rotate these in, but if I wait too long rotating when I'm actually sitting on the box, it takes a while to get that back, that memory back to explode upwards. But you can see the basics of this. This is the box squat. Again, always make sure that you're careful, that you have spotters. If you don't have spotters, make sure these are set at a level that you can easily get down to and get out without hurting yourself. So that covers the box squat. Next we'll move on to the manta ray. The next piece we're going to talk about is the manta ray. This attaches to the bar, sits across your shoulders, brings the bar up a little bit higher, so it puts more emphasis on the front of your legs and then your abs. It causes you to use a little bit better form than you might have to on a regular bar. You can buy these at multiple sites online. Almost anybody sells weight training equipment or fitness equipment sell these. They're about $40 to buy. So we'll show you how this thing works. You basically slide it in. You want to make sure that you're centered over the center of your bar. It just stamps into place so it stays right put. So when you're ready to go in there, all you have to do is get your bar set, come in, get set. Now you can see that this thing's riding a little bit higher than the other one is. So I set up again the same way. I sit back and drive up. Now this thing's trying to push me a little bit more forward, as you can see, so I have to really emphasize on keeping my head up, driving straight through. So it's a nice piece of equipment, nice inexpensive attachment to give you a lot more bang out of your squats, a lot more variety. The more variety you get, the more muscles you'll work, the stronger you'll be overall. It's a great little piece. So this is the manta ray. Okay, we're going to cover chains, adding chains to the bar. It adds weight. It actually adds more weight as you're coming up off the ground. So as you go down, it takes the weight off. As you come back up, it adds weight. So it gives you a little bit more work at that top end where we tend to be the strongest. You can buy chains that are pre-made that'll slide, have the collars and slide right on your bar. You can order those. I opted to go to a hardware store, a local big chain store where I can get the chains a lot cheaper, and I just built my own way of doing it. Shipping cost is very high on them because they're very heavy. Mine add about 40 pounds to each side when they're fully extended. I weighed them to make sure they were even. So how I did is I bought a little chain and I slide it on my bar. Then I hook my big chain up and I just used a little clamp on it. So I just hook these in. First one will go in. Right here. Second one goes in. Over the top of it. So I put a little clip in here to hold it, to adjust the height. I can, because this is any height I want, so I can put less weight on it or more. I brought this up so that when I'm squatting, I get all the weight on it that I want. So I do that. Now I put my collar on over the top of this. A lot of people would put the chain on after the collar, but I find it adds a little security to it so it doesn't flop, come off the bar. It gives me a little bit more help in that area. So again, everything being set up now, I got my chains on there. I use gloves to put my chains on because sometimes I have burrs on them. And you get stuck in your finger, that metal shavings, and it hurts. So I just want to have a cheap pair of gloves you can use to put them on and off. And again, this is going to add a little bit of weight to this. So again, I get set up, get my nice posture here, step back. And as you can see, as I squat down, the weight comes off and adds as I go up. So you can get chains that can add a whole lot of weight, or just enough to challenge you. I like to have enough just to challenge me. If I have too much chain on there, it's hard to gauge where I'm at. So I just bought one set of chains. I know what the weight is on them, so it keeps me very consistent. So that's how you squat with chains. Next thing we're going to cover are bands. We're going to cover bands now. There are different types of bands, different strengths. This is actually a medium band. I have mini bands, which are real thin. This is the biggest one you can get. This is an extra large band. And you can use these on just about every lift that you want to do, from a standing press to a deadlift, squat, bench press. What I did with my cage to make it more accessible, instead of sliding these down low, because they only go down, holes only go down to about here on this bar, on this cage, and I want to get it down lower, so I actually drill bolts in the center of my squat cage. So what I do is when I want to use my band, is again, I hook the bottom in here, and then I press it down with my foot. That allows me to be confident that this isn't going to snap up on me if it tends to work loose or if I step the wrong way. I'm just going to slide it up over the top of my cage here, so you can see that I've done it on the other side already. So the resistance is going to be high at the top. It's going to go down as I go down. It's going to get stronger as I go up. Each band offers a different set of challenges. So again, we'll demonstrate a couple. So we're going to get it here. Now the hard part about this particular lift is that the bands tend to pull you down more than the chains do. So sometimes setting up, especially with the big thick bands, is it's really hard to get out and set up because it does tend to pull you. So I'll make sure you have a stable base coming out of the squat rack. So again, we set up, get nice and centered, step, step, get set, and I come down, and you can see how they release and come back up. So the different bands add different amounts of weight. These are probably adding about, fully stretched, probably about 40 pounds to the top of the lift. These I've actually tested by hanging them a weight from the top to the bottom. It takes about 150 pounds to stretch these out for the weight to hit the ground being stretched out. So this adds a lot of weight, weight to the top end of it. There's my heavy bands, which are a size bigger than this, add about 80 pounds, 80 to 90 pounds. So using a variety of bands really helps a lot. I have a set of every size that's available, and they're just a great additive to using for your workout. I use them quite often. They're probably the piece of accessory equipment that I use the most are bands because I get the most benefit from them. My lifts have gone up the most from using them. So cover the stretch bands. Now we're going to go on to the front squat attachment. All right, we're going to cover the front squat harness. I bought this one from getstrength.com. Cost about $200 to buy. Some are a little more expensive, some are a little less, depending on where you buy them from. It actually fits over your shoulders. There's two different sizes, one for under a certain weight and one for the heavier weights. You actually slide this under the bar, do a squat. It forces you to use really good form because it does tend to pull you forward a little bit. It does work the front thighs a whole lot, just like a front squat does, except you don't have that bar pressure on your forearms, so you can tend to use a lot more weight without having the pain in your arms. I have elbow issues from all the years of lifting, so for me, this helps me really give a variety of things to my workout, a variety of ways of doing my workout to get stronger without the injury potential. So we'll get in here and show you really quick how to do a set. So basically you come in here, you want to get underneath it. You want to center it as much as you can. Sometimes it gets a little bit off. And then you just basically take the bar out. You got step, step. And I'm going to sit down and drive back up. I actually keep my hands out of the hooks as I'm going to keep the bar from moving anywhere. And back up. So it's a good piece of equipment. Now again, real quick, I can use the manta ray, the front squat harness, the bands. Let me show you the manta ray one more time. I can use this, I can use this, I can use bands, I can use chains, I can use them with just a cage. I can use them with my box squats too. So you have that variety of adding the box squats to any one of these attachments. Makes it a little bit different, a little more difficult to use at times. But for overall body development and strength, this is a great piece. And so all this accessory stuff is just for using one bar. The next bar we're going to show you is the safety squat bar. All right, we're going to cover the safety squat bar. Again, has the handles and the pads here. Again, it pushes to the front a lot, works a lot more abs, front thighs, but it's a great piece of equipment. You can go no hands with this, which makes it. All right, we're going to cover the safety squat bar, which again has handles, 3 pads. It allows you to work your front again a little bit more. It tends to push you a little bit more forward, work the abs in front of your thighs a little more. Also can be used with no hands, which changes the workout a little bit. We'll show you how to do that. The one thing you want to know about working out in your basement is if you have space issues, which we have here, one of the ways you work around them is being careful that you don't step on anything, don't trip over anything, kind of keep your weight set where you can get at the bar. What we're showing here, this bar is actually a 7-foot bar. It's a lot longer than a regular bar, so it's a little bit harder to get weights in and out from this little restricted area here, but it works just fine if we're careful doing it. So what we're going to do is show how to use this both ways with the hands and with no hands. You can also use this using boxes, using bands, using chains. It's all interchangeable. So for a variety of workout, you want to go heavy. When you get to where you can't increase anymore, change the exercise, go to something different. I don't go in real short cycles, but I'll do sometimes maybe a month of one exercise. When I can't go any higher, I change it. When I come back to it, I go to the same weight I left off at. So I don't get where I'm starting all over again, adding 5 or 10 pounds, that progressive overload. To me, that's a slow way of doing it. You're wasting a lot of time doing sets you've already done on weights your body's used to handling, so it's better to go back in and challenge yourself right away. So we're going to set this thing up, and we're going to do a few lifts for you. All right, I have my bar set up now. I added the weight to it. Again, I'm checking always, do I have the same weight on each side? Do I have a collar on each side? I want to make sure before I go down with it. If this happens to tip, again, especially in a home basement where you've got restricted space, if I have my training partner standing over here and that weight falls, there's a lot more chance of him getting hit here than it would be in an open gym. So we have to be conscious of our workout partners. And again, the area we're in, if you're in a basement that you have other things and besides your weight stuff, you could do some damage. You can damage tile floors. So you want to make sure you have the right mats. And here I have matting. This is an addition to this house. This is a porch, a basement underneath a porch. So it's all cement walls in here, cement floor, which is different than the rest of my workout area, which has tile floor. So if I drop the weight in the other areas of my basement, I do a lot of damage. So I have mats, my Devlin platform, things like that set up as protection. So we're going to go in real quick. I'll show you one with the hands, a couple with the hands, maybe a couple without. So again, you're going to come in here, but you want to make sure with this one is that you're not leaning too far forward. You want to hit your bar holders here. One of the things people tend to do is not step back far enough or step back too far. That's why we like that one step, because you don't want to come back and hit this, and you don't want to come forward and hit this because this will stop you right in your tracks. Sometimes it's hard to gauge. If I have a lot of weight with this attachment, sometimes I do come close to hitting this back. When I do, I just adjust on my next set. I find out on my warm-up sets where my stance is. So you want to make sure that you know where your warm-up stance is. We're going to come back in here. So we're going to slide in, get nice and deep. The one thing you want to remember on any bar that you're taking out, you don't want to come in and lean and then back it out like I just did here. It's like you're doing a little good morning exercise. We don't want to do that. So when you set up, you always want to come in, get underneath it, drive straight up, then do your step back. Most people do it the other way. That's why they end up with sore backs before they even get the weight out of the rack. Or they end up staggering and trying to set up because they really don't have good positioning coming out of the rack. So we come in nice and deep. So I'm just doing a little step up, step back, step back. Again, my head's up. I can push on the handles on this when I'm coming up. So I squat down, push up, get the same drive I did before. Now, I can let go of this bar. It's not going to fall anywhere. My hands are now free, and I can squat down, and I come up without doing any damage or worrying about the bar falling. One of the things that you want to remember with this bar is some companies will sell a holder for it that attaches into your squat rack, so you can grab on and hang on to the handles. You don't want to do that because you end up doing a lot of pulling with your arms. It's because your body in a bad position to squat has a chance to damage your shoulders. So you want to make sure that you're doing this where you're using the handles on the bar or going no hands. Stay away from the attachments. They usually don't come with the bar. You have to buy the bar attachments, cage attachments separate. You don't want to use those. I think they're very dangerous. And I don't use them at all. So again, we just covered the safety squat bar. We've gone over a lot of squat material today. We've used the different attachments, and there are even more. We go over belts. There are actually squat shoes. I'm going to show you one real quick here. This is a squat shoe. It's a little elevated in the back, so it makes sitting back a little bit easier. It has a surface that's easy to work with. So I use these in competition. So you can use the same shoes. You can buy these at most websites. I got mine from Safe USA, which is here. So it's located right in the state of Minnesota where I live. So I have these. And there's another one that's sold out of Texas, which is used for both squatting and deadlifting. It's a boot. It's called the Universal Boot. And it's got a nice gripping surface here. It's flat, but still stabilizes your foot after I can squat or deadlift in it. So aside from the fact that they take a little bit of effort to get on, they work really well. So that's another thing you want to consider. There's other attachments that we didn't cover today. There's other kinds of bars. There's cambered bars. There's all different kinds of angle bars. There's buffalo bars, which are bigger around. I have one, but I don't use it for squatting very often. But it's 3 inches around. Changes the grip, changes everything about it. It tends to be smoother without a lot of knurling on it to sit on your back. So it's a little more slippery. But it also challenges you a little bit different. There's different strength bars. The bar that you saw earlier that we did our first part of this with was a 1,500 pound stress bar. So it will take a lot of weight without breaking. There's some of the cheaper Olympic sets are 600 pounds. There's 800 pounds. And there's 1,200 pounds. Each bar is a little bit different. I have two 1,500 pound bars. The one I showed you in here will bend just a little bit when I'm using it. The other one I have doesn't bend at all. It's a difficult bar to lift with, but it helps us stronger in the meets, because in the meets they use the bars that do give you that flexibility a little bit. So again, covering the different bars there are, a lot of different bars, a lot of different attachments. Whatever you can afford to buy, I would, because for variety. If you get bored of the workout, you'll quit. If you get stuck and have nowhere to go, you tend to stay away from it for a long time. But squatting is a very safe exercise, contrary to what people say. You don't need to do these little dips that people do. That's just wasting your time. You want to do a nice full squat, keeping your back straight, driving your hips forward, driving with your heels, shoulders back. If you have good form on this, you'll be able to do a lot of weight with very little chance of injury. If you have your stance right, if you strengthen your muscles right, it's a great exercise. People don't do it nearly enough. It's the one that you see avoided the most at most health clubs and gyms. You'll see the squat racks being used for curls, just about everything except for what they were made for. So get a good squat cage, get your squat attachments. Good luck with your squatting. You can visit us at waldorfpower.com, at workoutsfromthebasement.com, or basementworkouts.com. So look at the tapes we have, the DVDs that are for sale, and we hope to see you soon. DVD, we're going to cover bench pressing and deadlifting. And again, with the bench press, this one's set up, this is a competition bench. It doesn't incline, all it does is lays flat, adjustable rack on it. Before I have a mat with a rug over it so our feet don't slip when we're pushing real hard. And we'll show some different ways of doing the bench press, which will show proper technique. Kyle's going to help me today. He's a world champion powerlifter, and he's going to come in. He's actually a world champion both in the bench press and the deadlift. So he'll be helping me do the demo here. So first we're just going to show some proper form. We're not using a lot of weight today simply because it's a hard workout. There's a lot of different things we're going to show. Not get too tired out. So first you're looking at again how he sets up his feet where he wants them. His feet in a competition is his feet can't leave the floor, they can't come up off the ground. And again, he has to pause with a second on his chest. Then a meet they'll call press, and he has to press it, then rack, they'll call the rack and rack it. Again, so he's up and down under control, blow it up with it. So we're going to show a few of those. You notice how he's tucking his elbows as he's coming down. It gets his lat muscles involved. So it makes it a much more efficient lift. It's the same spot on his chest. Everybody has a little different spot. But his is, he knows where his is, and that's where he's sitting right now. All right, we're gonna rack it. So that's basically the bench press. Again, you take it out under control. You tuck your elbows, bring it down to the spot you want it. On the way up, you explode as fast as you can out through your chest. Squeezing your chest, pushing with your feet, and accelerating as fast as you can under control. It's always being efficient. If you go fast and are out of control, you're going to drop the weight. So we're going to show a couple other ways of benching with bands or chains. So get that set up. So basically what we're going to do here, if we added chains to this, again, all we're going to do is hook the two ends of the chain into the flow chain, slide it over the top. So again, it's just again, just draping them over. And what he'll do now is he's going to bench with it. So what this does is this adds more weight. So as the weight's coming up, it gets heavier. Again, he uses the same form, sets up real nice, puts his feet plates where he wants them, pulls it off, big air at the top, folds up. As you can see as he comes up, now I can drape these chains all the way over, so they give him more weight or less. I'll do one more here. Notice how he accelerates up as fast as he gets under control. You know, rack it. So that's how the chains work. And we're going to go next, and we're going to show how bands work. Now I have 3 different size, actually 4 different size bands. I have a mini band, which again we've shown in previous DVDs, but this is a mini band, and I have mini, small, medium, large, and extra large. These are mediums, and we're going to use these today for the demo. And they add anywhere from 20 to 30, as high as maybe 70 to 100 pounds onto the different lifts, depending on how we position them and how they stretch. These will probably add about maybe 30, 35 or 40 pounds to the top end of his bench. So what we do, again, we'll take the chains off, and we're going to slide these over the top. So we'll take this off. Okay. Now I made this bench, especially for these bands. Instead of hooking them under the bottom, I want to get more stretch. So I drilled eye bolts through here and cross them over so we get the maximum stretch. Because right now you see at the top end, they're stretched pretty good, and they'll come down to almost nothing at the bottom. So I'm going to come in here and do a few. Huh? What do you do to never get the weight up? Alright, we're going to show you how to put the bands on. Again, I've got eye bolts drilled in my bench, and I'm going to come across, and this one's at the furthest eye bolt. Then we're going to run to the front here, slide it on. So we're going to readjust because it's off a little bit, so we're going to go to the front, slide it on. We'll have Kyle come in here and do a few. You can see that there's a lot of tension right where they're at now. I have different size bands. These are medium sized bands. I have 5 different strengths. This will add about 35 to 40 pounds probably onto this lift. So you see at the bottom, there's not a lot of tension, but at the top it accelerates. And when you get to the real heavy bands, this is a very hard lockout to do. Alright, and rack it. So that's the different ways you can add weight to the bench. You can also do different grips. We're going to adjust our grips. We do a narrow grip. We can do a wide grip. You have to cover the rings in a competition. These little rings here have to be covered with part of your hand. So you can go that wide, or you can go anywhere in between. So everybody has to find what works for them. The closer in that you are, the more shoulders and triceps you use. The more wide you are, the more chest you use, and it's a little bit harder sometimes to get out of the hole and lock it out. So everybody has their different positions they like. So that's bench press with this bar. There's also another bar that we could use. which is the football bar. Next to that here. Again, the shoulder strip foot. This is it's got 3 different grips on it. And they're angled out. And if we roll it over, they'd be angled in. So you actually have 6 different ways you can do pressing with this thing. Not only 6 different angles, but 6 different grips, but you got 12 if you use all the angles and all the grips. So this is good for the forearms, good for the building bench strength, good for the pushing motion. For athletes, it's good for almost every kind of sport. So we use this to vary between the two, but this is a good workout too. Maybe we'll just show a couple. We'll take this other bar down and we'll show a couple of this one. What we're going to do is take these bands off. Bar down the back. Well, this bar's a little dusty. I haven't used it for quite a while, so let's put a little bit right on here. This bar I actually borrowed to somebody for a while, so they don't have to sit outside. Got a little bit rusty. I'm waiting for the nice outside so I can repaint it for nice black paint over it again. But we'll show a couple, the difference with this one, so how easy to grab it. We'll show a couple reps with each grip. Whatever you want. This is a middle grip, which is probably for most people the easiest because it's more mimics a regular bench. So you're going to take it out. Again, you can see it forces the elbows to stay in. Alright, we're going to grab that and we're going to move to the outside. The outside puts a lot more stress on the pecs. For some people, either the inside or the outside is the most difficult. For me, the inside is, but the outside also is a big stretch. So it can be difficult for it's a good way to warm up. It is a big stretch. Good. And you can see that his hands are angled out. For the last set on the inner one, we're going to angle in. So you'll see that his hands are here are going to be like this. This really works the triceps. Fantastic bar for triceps. Alright, good. Then we'll rack that. A football bar, you can get it on Louis Simmons. There's a couple other places. There's a website, Reps 97, that you can get it from, Resistance Reps. So, great bar, kind of spendy, but there's well worth the money. So, that covers the bench press. Different ways you can do your bench press, different styles, using bands, chains, whatever you want to add to them. And we're going to now move on to the deadlift. Alright, we're going to cover the deadlift now. One more thing about the bench before we move on to the deadlift is you saw that we use collars all the time. A lot of people don't think you need to use collars, but when that weight flies off, and we see it in meets, we see it in warm-up groups especially, bar flipping over because somebody didn't use a collar. You always should use a collar, use a spotter. The reason most people don't use spotters is because they think that with the collar out they can dump the bar and you'll be alright. Even on a deadlift, if that weight starts flying out, you're not even, that weight starts rolling out. And other sides of the body, you have an injury, you could hurt somebody else standing nearby, so it's very important that we use collars. And you can see that when we use plain collars on here, we reset them every time whenever we use a band or a chain. We know the band with those weights on, flying, the weights pitching, the band's going to be hard on them. So, again, we do that. Now, same with the deadlift. We have collars on the bar. We always use collars. This is a deadlift platform that I built. And this is a small one. So you see the bar hangs out there, but I didn't have a lot of space. And a lot of home gyms you have to improvise. What we did here. I have 3 mats down here to give some gripping strength in your shoes, and also for the weights to land so it doesn't bust up the wood. I'm probably going to add a rug over this eventually to make that impact a little even less. I also have eye bolts in this one. There's an eye bolt here in the back. That's how I hook my bands over to do the band work. Chains are just hanging right up like we did with the bench press. So, I'm going to have Kyle come in here and show you how to do a deadlift. Kyle is, again, a world champion deadlifter. He has 4 separate world records on this lift alone. So, I'm going to come in and show you what the proper form is. So again, we look at this, what he's going to do from the side is you pick up where you want to have the bar. Notice you have the straps here, so the bar rolls. Bars tend to roll because it's even. You can set a strap underneath the waist so you pick it up and keep it where you want. But again, you see this stance, some people go real close and want to work from 6 to 8 inches apart to wider, which will swim on a little bit. And what he's going to do is he's going to bend down, he's going to hook the bar with his hands, he's going to straighten up, take the slack out of his arms, he's going to look up and drive, first with his heels, so he's going to drive his hips forward. So we'll show him a couple reps here. One more. Good. So you can see that. The arms are perfectly straight, there's no slack in them. Before he pulls the bar, he lets those arms straight. A lot of people try to bend and they come up and it just makes a terrible lift. And if the weight's heavy, it's going to jerk your arms down anyhow, which jerks you forward. The minute you get the bar moving, you want to pull it into your legs. You want to drag it along your legs. You don't want it being out. Every inch it's out, it adds about 50 pounds to the lift. Makes it very hard. Tough on the lower back also. So we're going to show next. We'll set up the bands, some bands over the top. So again, we're going to use the mini bands today. We'll demo this. We're going to hook over so you can see. This is going to be a little bit harder pull right from the floor because the bands are already stretched out. And we want to get all the twist out. But one band's twisted and one band's not. Another accessory that we do. And we can do this with different kinds of bars. I have an oversized bar. The football bar doesn't work well for deadlifting or squatting. It does good for rolling and things like that. But with the deadlift, we could use the oversized bar. I could use a shorter bar. This is a thicker bar here. Again, this is a 1,500-pound stress bar. It doesn't bend, it's pretty thick, and it's got real rough knurling on it, very hard to lift. When you get to a meet where the bars actually bend and they're thinner, usually about 40 pounds more than you get with this one. So good for training, but very hard on the body. I'm going to have Kyle show how the things that are illegal to do. First we're going to show ramping the bar, where you slide your legs under or against your leg, which is illegal. So now when he goes down, we're going to do one more set. So we're going to have, what we do is, I'll show this real quick, because I'm better at cheating than Kyle is. But what it is you get in here, and I'm struggling, so here I pull back against my legs, which is illegal. I also can't jerk the bar up. That's illegal. So it has to be a very smooth upward one. You can't come underneath and slide and ramp it up where you're actually supporting the weight on your thighs as you come up with it. That's illegal. We'll show a little bit if you get out too far. We'll have Kyle let the bar get away from the front. How much harder the lift is. Again, even demoing this, so be careful. It's very easy to get doing this. Yeah, what we're going to do is roll it out. Here, give me the straight on the straps. Just lay one underneath them. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the straps here to keep this bar from moving. So now Kyle can show. You don't stand too far back to start with, and it's going to pull up instead of pulling into his body. Again, it's very hard to pull a good weight this way. See how awkward it is? And he's added about 50 to 100 pounds to this foot just the way you lift it. So again, you want to have good form. Again, using your collars. And the programs you can do are a lot. There's a lot of variation from 1 rep to 5 to 10. What we do is have a lot of different. I do a lot of 1 reps. I do a lot of doubles and triples. I don't do a lot of 10 reps because I train for power and it doesn't really help my power all that much. So we'll show you a nice straight back. So here's how your back should look. You stand in the pile. When he bends, you see his back's nice and flat. He bends over, but it's nice and flat. And as he comes up, it stays nice and flat. So when he comes up, he drives 6 in there, he gets a lot of power in it. Now we're going to show you a rounded back, which is a lot harder to do. This one is over the shoulder, dip forward. And go a little more. And then now, another one's head down. If you really want to round your shoulders, then you just keep your head down. And you see, the back is round here. So the pull is going to be a lot harder than the pull. You know, see, it's strong. This is 225, and he's done, 550 pounds. This is, half of what he's done, and it took a little bit of work for him to get it up. So that's what that form will do. And again, we didn't use belts today because we didn't go that heavy, but usually when we get above 275, 300, we put belts on all the time. Check the stomach. Again, give you that support and keep it from getting injured. It's better to put a belt on too early than to put it on and then get hurt, because once you're hurt, you can't go back and do it. I use my belt earlier now as I age. When I hit my 50s, I never used to put it on until 350 pounds maybe. Now I put one on 245. I get about 245. I usually put a belt on because it's strong on my back. When your back gets fatigued, you can't lift as much, you can't do as many sets, and it kind of takes away from the program you're doing. So that's the bench press and deadlift workout as far as the proper form and technique. We'll do a video soon that will actually follow our workouts around. We'll show you the different workouts that we do, the different reps we do, the different machines, the different steps we work, and you'll find that real exciting. And it'll be great for your workout too, because we produce a lot of champions out of this basement, and we can do the same for you if you're really interested in doing this. Thank you. I appreciate you watching our video.